Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horror review. Before we begin, let me apologise. This damn bloody cough is back, so I might be spluttering a wee bit during this. I'll try and keep it short and reasonable, but do you know when you feel it just coming up? And today it's just been getting worse and worse and worse, and I've been hacking and just. I think I'm going to need a couple more days. So I'll start using my leave. Actually, put 2 days in to try and get over this. Fucking can't be bothered. It's like every germ in the planet has decided to come out and play. Fun times, but that's life. Doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. So if you remember this little book, I got it, was it last month or the month before, Bonner Book Club unboxing. After reading it, well, I would say reading, but slogging through it, this was a breath of fresh air. Got it done in 2.5 commutes. I think I'm going to use that as a measurement for how quickly I get through books. The only problem with it is it's not like a set time, because sometimes I will have a good journey and I'm down and concentrating. Other times my mind's all over the show and I'm lifting up and lifting down. There's people up and down and all that kind of stuff. So it really depends. It's a bit of a sliding scale, but yeah, I know, have a bit of fun. So, excuse me. 2.5 commutes, got it read. Basically, the premise of the story is we have the main character is David Ash. He's a paranormal investigator, and he works for the Parapsychological Institute, like some official thing. There probably is something like that exists, but let's go with it. This is set, I would say 80s or so. There's still payphones and the old rotary phones, and people have to, it's just a different time. So it's interesting. Younger people might find this a bit of a struggle when they're reading it, but for us old fogies that remember the time before the internet and mobile phones and all that good stuff, wasn't it to go back. This isn't. Now I've read a few James Herbert books over the years. Was it Rats, Sepultura, The Spear? Did he do The Mist or The Fog? But a lot of his stories have a theme. It's the one individual doing an off the cuff, a unique sort of job, gets dragged into a global phenomena, and some sort of outbreak or plague or something like that, and it usually involves like rats, obviously rats, and then the fog. It's people going and seeing. Sorry, I feel a cough coming, so I have to keep it wet. I have to keep wetting the whistle. Yeah, and it's usually cultists and that kind of stuff. So it's more of a natural disaster, natural phenomenon going to the max, or cultists or criminals. So it's very human. Might seem a strange way to describe as horror, but his horror is very human. This is a straight out ghost story. So it's a bit different. And I was actually quite surprised. Not as normal repertoire. What's it got? He's got like 20 odd books out, I think. I need to start picking them up again, actually. Because it's been a while. Start with them soon. Problem is, I don't want to go over old ground now and rebuild my book collection. I want to branch out the things maybe I didn't get first. And maybe I did warn you. This was coming. Oh my word. Professional as always. I'll be up in the morning, sugar, caffeine, and all sorts of pills and potions just to. I nuke. I go full nuclear and stuff like this. But anyway, back to the story. So, main character is David Ash, but it's a bit of a difference. He is a paranormal investigator with the aim of discrediting or disproving supernatural phenomenon. So he's a cynic, and that makes him sort of the antithesis of what the paranormal institute's meant to be, or paranormal investigators and psychics and that sort of thing. He's hated, despised in a sense in the community. Yet the people who worked with him, because the complaint that he's brought onto this institute, and uh, you know, clutching pearls, that thing, we pulling her and Ashton Tate, woe was me. It's like, what'd you bring this guy on for? But as we read through his story, you find out that he's actually doing a service because he's the one weeding out the fraudsters, the charlatans, the con artists, all that kind of stuff, the misguided. So he's actually getting rid of those sort of people who prey on others. And also by not automatically believing the family or the people that are haunted and looking for the rational explanation, he's not feeding into their fears. And it's when you read it, it actually makes sense. The way it's written, and that's what I have to say, it's well written for a short book. It's well written. There's plenty in it, and you can follow the story. This is where I've said about bluff and filler. That books, people think they have to do a book this size to be good or to be New York Times. Like, I always use that phrase, New York Times bestseller. It makes me cringe. But you can almost go beat for beat. Every New York Times bestseller type book is that thick, and it all has the same beats and words, and you can barely tell the bloody difference between them, even though different authors. It's quite interesting if you look at it. But yeah, in this short book, he manages to give full in depth to the characters. He goes into David Ash's past trauma, which led him down the path he's on. Even his stroke boss, lover, because they're not really in a relationship. It's almost like an open, casual relationship between them. Him and Kate. He managed to win the complexities of that. And then the actual story, which is the investigation of the Eaterbrook or Easterbrook. Hang on. Oh my god. I have missed it. I think it's the Easterbrook house. Eaterbrooks. Edbrooks. It's one of them weird names that you need to repeat 100 times to get in your head. Yeah, the Edbrooks or Edbrooks house. So the Martells, the family there, write a letter into the institute, and this is back in the day, especially in rural communities, which is like I said, the pre-internet era, is a fascinating time. People today that have grown up know nothing else but instant communication across the world right now, like what I'm doing, can't comprehend the fact that a small village outside of like only a couple of hours outside a major city may as well be halfway across the planet. And this was what, 3-4 decades ago. It's not even like hundreds of years. We're talking decades ago. That's why I'm fascinated with social media and the way it's come, because I've seen the world without it, and I'm living in the world with it, and I'm even seeing it in all its progression so far, and it's nowhere near the end. You know what I mean? The journey's only really beginning. Look at the printing press, look at the radio, look at the TV. What else? Telephone, you name it, telegrams. In a short period of time, the world's evolved so much. So it's good to look at this and the fact that it wouldn't even be considered today how isolated. I don't think this would be a tricky one to tell in the modern world, because you'd have to do a lot of the horror tropes, like mobile phone, beep, 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 no signal. You'd really have to change things to make it work today. So that's the time period works for the story, which is cool. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nobody says that every story, like even if you're creating a new story, has to be set right now today. That's why we have sci-fi that goes in the future and fantasy that goes focuses more medieval times. You know, that's why we have all that kind of stuff, because it's good to go back and forward and explore things. The same with horror. There's no reason why it has to be all right that now today with today's social commentary and issues, if that makes sense. I wouldn't even argue it's quite boring. And the fact that it still holds up, you know, I picked this up. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and pretend I'm taking notes. I don't, but it's not a new book. Let's be frank. But the fact that I can pick it up today, even from when it was published, kind of tells us a good story. A good story is a good story. It holds. But we'll have David Asher. Don't want to obviously spoil the plot. And sorry, my brain's kind of fluffing about today. But I don't want to spoil the plot, but I'll give you an overview of what it's all about. So he's called to investigate this house. Isolated village, but even the village the house is isolated from the village because it's like an old aristocracy type house that's been passed down for generations. So even the village is remote, the house is remote still. There's that distance, and then he has to go through the motions of, you know, starting his investigation, and that's when he discovers something's not quite right. And then the story unfolds and unravels. We meet the is it Martells and Muriels? I don't know. We've got Nami Tess, we've got Christina, we've got Simon, and the older brother. Well, twins. Who's the older brother? Christina, Nami, Robert, Simon. I took an instant dislike. The way he's written, Simon, I took an instant dislike too. He's one of those sneering, always got a smirk in his face, like he's making fun of you. An instant dislike him. Robert, I wasn't too fussed, or not too bothered about either way. He was kind of a neutral character, even though he's part of the plot. Nami Test, you feel sorry for because of the way her situation is, looking at, like, these kids are adults and she's still waiting on them hand and foot, and yet they have money, but they don't have servants. Apparently, only bringing them in for special occasions. It's all very strange, which gets revealed with the family dynamics. Oh, there is Chris. Greetings. Good to see you, my man. I've never read a horror book. This one's good. Yes, this one is good. My imagination isn't good enough to scare me before. Yeah, but here's the thing about horror. Okay, if you're any sort of horror fan, the scares disappear. It's very, very difficult to actually frighten a horror fan. That's not what it's about. It's okay when you've maybe somebody coming in and never experienced one for all the jump scares, that sort of thing, or when you're a kid, because most horror fans start out and we're like flipping on high. The scares go away. What horror brings, and this is what people don't understand and don't appreciate it. And funny enough, I shared a Spooky Mina's post. She goes Spooky Mina on the Slasher app. She goes as Mina Edwards on YouTube. But she made a great video about how the disdain towards horror is paramount, even in social media, almost effectively shadow banning any horror content. Look at this channel, for example, and this isn't me blowing smoke up my own backside, but we've been going over 2 years now. We're just about, was it 97th episode of Horrific Tales went out. I've recorded 98. Just need to edit it. We're really close to 100. We featured 72 authors. You don't have that sort of reach with people, and people prepared to interact with you, and people knowing your channel's name and knowing who you are, yet you're not getting exposure to the general public. That's where it doesn't add up. If I was sitting here making absolutely terrible, boring content, and I don't overhype things, that's not my way. Not everybody likes that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to sit here and be super hyper, or and doing clickbait stuff. Not interested. I want to give honest reviews of things as I watch them or read them. But we hardly get any views, and it's obvious. There's people. There's something not right with the algorithm because there's stuff out there that's just a nothing, yet it gets far reaching. It's all to do with the hashtags, the metadata, that sort of thing. Anyway, wee bit of a tangent. Yes, this is a good book. It's a short book. You can read it in a day, a couple of hours. I used the probably before you come on there, Chris, 2.5 commutes. I'm measuring my reading time and commutes, how long it takes me to get to work. Sometimes I get a chance in the back, depends how tired I am. So I get 2 reads a day of it, at maximum, 1 at minimum. Just it all balances out. But yeah, short book, doesn't try to overcomplicate things. But the whole point of horror is the story, and it's about delving into the ideas. Horror's always been about that. That's why there's so many subgenres of horror. Now, this is definitely supernatural horror. There's no ambiguity. This is a straight up ghost story. And you can guess, because like I said, it's not trying to be overcomplicated. Excuse me one sec. You can guess where the story's going, but you still enjoy the reveal. And that in horror, because in the horror context, ghosts, murders, demonic beings, they're tools to tell a story. And it doesn't matter what the genre is. Like, we've seen awful movies, like slasher flicks can be awful at times if they're done lazily. But also, there's a reason that certain slasher flicks have lasted the test of time. And I'll use an example, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a reason that movie, even though it was made in 1972, or if I remember rightly, still disturbs people today. And it's not so much the gore and that, because if the effects are practical, they hold up quite well, to be honest. But it's the story, it's the idea, and that's what horror is. So if you enjoy ideas, and this is where people maybe not familiar with the horror genre are just expecting nobody, I'll correct me wrong, nobody actually gets killed in it. Here's an example. Nobody gets killed in this book. Right? Nobody actually gets killed in this book. So there's an idea for you, but it's still a good story, and it's still a good horror story. So, wee bit of a spoiler, but there's some things worse than death. Let me just put it that way. And that's what makes a good horror tale. And this has it. But the story behind the family and the investigation, but also David's story, because David's story in this is paramount. Because if David had a different backstory, if David had a different mindset, things wouldn't have played out the way they did. So there you go. That's worth it. I have also found out, because, like I said, I got this from a horror book club, the unboxing, and it's not like I said, it's not your normal James Herbert fare, but I read it just because it's in my book collection. I didn't actually research, but when I went to get, believe it or not, the thumbnail for the episode, I've now discovered this is part 1 of a 3-part book series, and this has been made into a movie with Kate Blanchett and Christina. So, of course, I'm going to check it. Of course, I'm getting the other 2 books, and of course, I'm checking out that movie, and of course, I'll be back on again to talk about those. But it just goes to show, that's like things like book clubs. The reason I joined it is I'm a creature of habit. I know what I like, and you kind of stay in your lane. And I think we're all guilty of that somewhere or another. Sorry, excuse me. I need to get rid of this call for Saturday, or else it's going to be absolute torture trying to run this game. But sorry, a few other things planned this month. But where was it? Yeah. I have just completely lost my train of thought. Isn't that fantastic? Oh my god! Right, where was it? You can't rewind this. That's the problem with live streaming. If this was a pre-recorded video, I would rewind and then do a jump cut. But this is the joys of going live. So forgive me if I've kind of went off track here. Yeah, book clubs. That's where it was. Yeah, we're comfortable. We like our things. With subscriptions that are like book clubs, I'm getting a lot of stuff that I would never think about picking up. Wouldn't cross my radar, and that's a good thing. And the good thing about the book club I'm in, that I'm do the unboxings, I'm not getting Stephen King every week. I'm not getting James Herbert or Clive Barker, even though I started Clive Barker book, by the way, because coming soon. You're not getting all the mainstream, nor recognizable books, because that would be boring. You may as well not bother. So getting all like this one, I wouldn't have. When I think of James Herbert, I always think of Rats and the Fog and those type of books. That sort of scenario, because that's what he does best. And it's good to see little things like Joe Hill's Horns. And never, it just I'd seen the movie years ago, as you know, when I did my review. It never crossed my radar again for some reason until I got the book. Then I'm intrigued, and then I revisit, and then I have a new, like, fresh eyes on something. And that's a good thing. And then you discover new stuff. And then when you delve up more into the books, then you realize, oh, here's another series. Here's related stuff. And then you always expand. And that's good. It's always good to expand yourself, try new things. And you know what? If you try something new and you don't like it, that is perfectly fine. Nobody's forcing you to. I hate this sort of online cult mentality of you must be a fan of this and nothing else, or if you don't like something that the particular mob in question enjoys, you're a horrible person and therefore it's okay to bully you. It's a weird mindset. I always encourage anyone, yeah, try something new, step out of your comfort zone, because that way you get to know what you like. But the most important thing is why you like it. So why I like this sort of book, even though it's short and it's a quick read, if it's done well, which I believe this one is, in my opinion, you can get as much out of it than reading 1,000 odd pages. If you're engaged in the material, it doesn't matter the size or length. And I think as well, when I'm talking to authors, especially the ones who contribute to this show, I'm trying to break down that, because especially with people wanting to write and create, which, as you know, what this podcast is all about is encouraging more people to actually try creating as opposed to just consuming stuff. Everyone has an imagination. Everyone has that like little spark inside them, and if you can bring it out, you are not wasting your time. And people get caught up of, oh, it's only a novella. It's not a novel. Oh, it's only a short story that I've submitted to an anthology. I'm not a real author. And we've had that conversation. If you go back to the interviews, we've had that conversation. And I personally challenge that idea, because a lot of it is gatekeeping and, chest thumping and I'm better than you sort of thing. And people bring up semantics just to make somebody feel a bit smaller. And I think that's quite sad. If you're doing that to someone, you need to check yourself, because if your position is so weak that somebody else coming up and creating as well is such a threat to you, you need to look at yourself. And that's all I have to say on that. I don't want to go into a preachy thing here. But just back to the point, it's a short book. You can read it. You can be done in a short period of time, so you don't have to invest those time. And I think that's what puts people off reading, as opposed to watching movies. Like a movie, 2 hours, the 2 hours time, you've completed the story. People get intimidated because, I don't have time. And then if I start it and don't finish it, I'll have to go back to it again. All that, you know what I mean? It all plays over your mind. And I think that's why, as well, not enough people read. and we're seeing it in the younger generations. They just don't read anymore. And we've had that conversation too, which I think is sad. It's a skill set that needs to be maintained. Like anything else, if you train physically, if you practice a skill or an instrument, you need to do it. If you want to read, you need to practice reading because it introduces you to words and terms and phrases that maybe you may not have come across, and that's only good. You know, being exposed to things and increasing your own skill set is only a good thing. And I'd encourage anyone to just try reading. You know, but you don't have to go straight into super duper intellectual, heavy topics or anything else. Do it for pleasure. In fact, if you do something for fun and you enjoy it, you're going to do it again. And then when it comes to having to read something, I'll just translate this into real life. Say somebody gives you a document to sign and it's a flipping 20-page document. If you don't read, you're not going to, that's going to be like a mountain to climb for you. But if you're a reader on a regular basis, even if it's fiction, it's still practicing. And we need to get younger folk not to abandon reading altogether. And I don't know how to do that. So any ideas, greatly appreciated. But it's that's why we cover books here as much as we cover movies and everything else, because reading is still not a waste of time, and it's still enjoyable. Because the problem with something put on the screen is you're given the idea. Like I said, Kate Blanchett in the movie, which I haven't seen yet, but she plays Christina. If I watched the movie first, I would have Kate Blanchett in my head as Christina. Where by reading this, I have, sorry, I should do it more that way. I'm not good at this camera stuff, but I have my own idea of Christina, and it wasn't Kate Blanchett. It was somebody wispier, if that makes sense. But that's, my interpretation will be different from yours, and it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That's the whole point of imagination, is you fill in the blanks. And the same with horror, horror as well. You don't have to, not everything's presented to you. An idea might be presented to you, and the rest of your brain fills in the blanks. And if you want to enjoy being frightened or have an idea or feel uncomfortable, that's where horror comes into its own. Now, this one didn't, it's actually quite a mild story until the end, and then it all ramps up. Oh, there's a sub story in the middle that talks about how David and Kate sort of work together in a case, and that one was a bit more twisted. So that was a good one. So there's lots of subplots. Like I said, that's all the size of the book, and there's about 4 subplots in the main story, and each one still has room. Sorry, I'm gonna cough again. Oh my god. I do apologize. I am in bits, but I don't want to give up making content. Still got to keep the channel going. Yeah. So there you go. That's it. Without spoiling it, I'm very interested to see how the other two work out, because the way this ended, I genuinely thought that was it. I thought David was kind of in trouble there. So if we're making 2 more books, and he's obviously okay, or he gets past it, or maybe it continues on. I don't know. I'll be interested to find out. There you go. That's my review. The link for the book's in the description if you want to check it out. Please do keep an eye out. I will get to the movie and the other 2. I don't know whether to do the movie separately. I don't want to repeat content, if that makes sense. Let me know what you think. Do you want me to do the movie separately, or do you want me to finish off the next 2 books and talk about the whole series and include the movie, how it was portrayed? Whatever. It was same as with it. When I did part 1 and part 2 versus the book, made sense. So there you go. I'm trying to drown a cough. I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but I keep thinking if I throw liquid down my neck, I'm not going to splutter as much. There you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Keep up to date with the channel. Do the typey clicky things. And until next time, keep it creepy. Keep it horrific.